Welcome to Backstage Community Forum. I am very honored to be here with Bill Lindsey from Impaler. 4 decades of melting people's brains with your shock rock music. Thank you very much for having me into the Monster Room here.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I'm always glad to have people come and see it.
Oh yeah, I could, like I was saying, I could look for hours and just, go down memory lane with a lot of these. And even Sting is here pointing at us right now. Sting from WC.
Oh no, that's actually
is
the
it
Crow.
The real Crow?
That's the Crow. Yeah, but
good
good connection with the wrestling though. Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for having me here, Bill. I am very interested in your story, and but right now, currently, you've done 4 decades with Impaler so far.
Yep.
And moving on, still going with Impaler. And you also have another band that you're starting, or is it a project, or what is
Yeah, well, it's just something that I always wanted to do because the Stooges were such a huge influence on me and on our early music. And we actually would get, compared to the Stooges by different writers and stuff. And so it's just something I always wanted to do because I feel like I can channel my inner Iggy. Yeah. So I got these really great players. I got the rhythm section from Dumpster Juice.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Todd
and Wayne.
Okay. Yeah.
And then this young guy named Nate who just loves old music, and he channels Ron Ashton and James Williamson. It's amazing. He sounds so good, and he does his homework, and he does all the leads, and he's got what you'd say the essence of those guitar players in him as a 30-year-old guy. So it's really fun, yeah. And it's just something I always wanted to do, pay tribute to the Stooges. Impaler liked to do that too. We always throw some songs in from bands that influenced us, into our set because we want to do that because sometimes people aren't really up front with who influenced them because they want to be the ones who invented it or something, and that's just silly. So, we always like to turn people on that maybe never heard the Dead Boys before.
Yeah, I saw you perform the Dead Boys at your 40th anniversary with Chad. Actually, was singing. Chad Johnson was singing.
Yeah,
too.
we brought those guys up to sing it with us, and Roland.
Yeah, Roland.
Chris from Dumpster Juice. Yeah.
And
so
what is that called? What's the band called specifically?
The World's Forgotten Boys.
Okay.
We were originally going to call ourselves the Forgotten Boys, but I found out there was a punk band in Brazil that calls themselves that. And I'm kind of sensitive about taking somebody else's name because people have tried to do that with us over the years. And you got a great name. Other people wanted, we'll call ourselves Impaler. So we just lengthened the name to the World's Forgotten Boys, which is the lyric from Search and Destroy. Which when Impaler, when we did our If We Had Brains album, we covered Search and Destroy on that album. And I've had so many young musicians that are older now, what they say, you are the band that turned me on to the Stooges. I didn't know who the Stooges were until I bought If We Had Brains. And that's such a huge compliment to me because like we were able to turn on another generation to the Stooges, who are an important band and should be known by everybody. But yeah.
That was your release on Combat Records, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Did you have to get permission to do that song?
Yeah, when we were with Combat, they did all that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they contacted the publishing people and they did that on our behalf, so we didn't really have to do that. I don't even know how to do that.
Okay.
We just record people's songs and give them all the credit on the back and all the BMI or ASCAP information that's put on the record. Mm-hmm. And that's as far as we get with it. And then I guess they don't mind because Dee Ramone, in his book, in the back of his book, he said, these are bands that have covered my songs. And he had Impaler, Pet Sematary in the list of...
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That was very cool. And he didn't seem to be mad about it. We never were contacted by the Ramones people to cease and desist or anything. So, yeah. So it's fun. I mean, I love to pay tribute to my heroes because they're why I'm here. They're why I do what I do because they inspired me to do this, Yeah.
And when will you guys be playing out? Do you have shows booked yet, or?
Well, we just played Darkness Day at Surly on
Okay.
Saturday, just this past week.
Oh, was that the picture of you and your son standing in the brewery?
Yeah, that was
okay.
a promo. That was a promo for that show. Yeah,
Yes. I
yeah.
thought it
They
was
let us into the
upcoming.
brewery.
I lost a week of my life, so you had to
Yeah,
excuse me.
yeah. You told me about that. Yeah, well, you get a pass. Yeah. We're gonna play at the Mabel Tainter Theater on the 26th with Psycho Stick for for one of our Halloween shows. Surly's kind of our local Halloween show now.
Yep.
And then the night before Halloween, on the 30th, is the first show for the World's Forgotten Boys.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we do that Kiss tribute the first week
At
the
No
first
Name-
Saturday
at No Name
in
Records.
November. Correct. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if Danny will let me come and do some filming, this kind of stuff.
Oh, I'm
Maybe
sure
do
he
a
will.
little
He's
sit down with some people and
Yeah.
hear what they got going on.
Yeah, that would be a great show. Yeah, he's such a nice guy, and it's
Yep.
so great he does that every year.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's just
Yeah.
driven by passion for. He even holds on to records all year long so he can put them out for sale.
Yeah.
At that time, so
So we're gonna pay tribute to like two of our heroes, and like, I'm gonna do the Stooges, and then Kiss follows up a week later, and then we have our big Krampus show. Merry Krampus will be in December 7th, and that's actually, it's going to be a little different this year. We're doing it at the Amsterdam in St. Paul, and it's going to coincide with Capitol Guitar's 20th anniversary. They're celebrating their 20th anniversary in December, so it's going to be Merry Krampus and Capitol Guitar's 20th anniversary show. So it'll be fun. It's going to be big.
So it seems like you're doing a lot of really cool shows coming up just in the next handful of months.
Yeah, it's gonna be busy.
The Krampus is December 7th.
Mm-hmm.
The Forgotten Boys is
October 30th.
The day before Halloween.
Yeah, Halloween Eve, maybe you'd call it. Or I don't want to confuse people. I just say the night before Halloween. And then we're going to play again in January at the Turf Club.
Okay.
Yeah, the Goo Goo Mucks, who are a Cramps cover band, and Rude Girl, that's all-female Clash tribute. So we're going to play again in January.
Awesome.
I think that's the 9th. That date escapes my mind right now, but the first show, the debut of the World's Forgotten Boys, will be October 30th.
Wow. Okay. That's exciting. That's exciting. Definitely.
Yeah.
So the thing that I think about is you didn't really have a roadmap to start this style of music, and I mean, you did mention about the Stooges, and I'm guessing probably the Ramones as well, and probably
Alice Cooper,
Kiss, things like that.
70s hard rock.
But there's never been really anything like you guys around here.
Yeah, we were very unique to the scene at the time, because a lot of the hard rock bands were playing under the guidance of management or booking agencies, ARM, GMA, stuff like that, and they had a certain set or guideline for what they wanted their bands to do and be, and we were like not going to conform to that, because we were inspired by actually the punk movement here in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, and the new wave of British heavy metal. I looked at those musicians and what they were doing, and I was like, okay, they're doing it themselves, the DIY. And,
Yep.
And they're doing it, and they're doing what they want to do. They're not playing what's current on the radio, which I'm not slagging, because they're great bands that have played over the years that followed that format that I used to go see, and I found inspiration from them because they were playing music. And anybody that's creating music or playing music or creating art is cool with me. They're spending their time well in my book. So, we kind of had to make it up as we went along. And so we kind of watched what the punks were doing over in Minneapolis, and we went and recorded a demo tape right away. We were 5-piece at that time. We had Mike Torak, Court Holly, who's still in Impaler.
Court was in the very
he was an original member. Mike Sen was in the band at the
Mr.
time.
Hate.
Incredible fast guitar player.
Yeah.
And Meaty Bob Johnson, who passed away a few years back.
Yeah.
So R.I.P. Meaty Bob. And we wrote our own songs right off the bat. I mean, we played some of our heroes to get things rolling, and then we started writing our own material right away. And we went and recorded a demo tape over by Lake Calhoun. I can't remember what street it was on, but a guy had a studio. I think his name was J. Paul Sooney, if I remember right. He had a studio in the basement, and he used old mattresses and for buffers between, and we played the songs live down in this basement with mattresses in between us. And
That's awesome.
yeah, and so then we took that, and I was like, I know that Good Music Agency or Marsh Productions isn't going to care about our crazy punk metal tunes, but what if I took it over to Goofy's Upper Deck? And that's what I did. I went over there and I gave the sound man, his name was Drew Miller. He's in Boiled and Lead.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
Great guy. He ran sound, and there was a guy named Fred, Hollywood Fred, who was the booker manager of the Upper Deck, which is above Goofy's, which is a strip club.
Okay.
And so I went to the Upper Deck and I gave them our demo tape, and they loved it. They said, we've been looking for bands that sound like Motorhead and Venom, and we haven't found any yet, and we found you guys. So, of course, yes, come here and play. And we played like, unfortunately, they had to shut down because there were so many complaints about the punk rockers and stuff, which was ridiculous. And the guy who owned Goofy's didn't really care for having the music venue up there. He kind of hated it. He didn't like hard rock, punk rock. He hated it. And so they had to close at the end of the summer, but they booked us 3 times before they closed that summer. So we did 3 shows at Goofy's Upper Deck, and that's kind of how we got our start. And then the guys from Husker Du, Bob and Grant, who Grant I knew from childhood. We went to camp together, but they came to check us out at Goofy's Upper Deck, and they said, hey, do you want to warm us up? We're going to play in First Avenue in the main room for our album Metal Circus is coming out. It'd be perfect to have you guys play with us. So that was like maybe our 4th or 5th show was with Husker Du in the main room.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine? So we were just
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, we were just, it was like we fell into a pot of gold or something. I don't know. We're just like we've been very lucky through our whole career, just kind of being maybe in the right place at the right time, or doing something that that was interesting to people, that they would want to look a little deeper into what we were doing or pursue what we were about. And we've been very lucky that way.
Well, but you're also interesting in so many different manners too. Visually very interesting, musically very interesting. Everybody seems to have a great attitude, and everybody's very social with everybody else, plus a enormous amount of knowledge of the underground music scene, in addition to the hard rock and the heavy metal that I've heard from just talking with you. And some of the other people that you play with, like Mike Sen, is he's an encyclopedia of a lot of stuff too,
Yeah.
So if you can go back just to here, you went to camp with Grant Hart?
Yeah. And we were in junior high school, and we went to Onamia, Minnesota, the Lutheran Bible camp. It was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I went there a few summers when I was in junior high for confirmation groups and different things. And then they always had a summer camp. So I went, and Grant Hart was there, and we connected because we found out that we both loved the Marx Brothers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we were riffing on Marx Brothers movies all the time, doing Groucho imitations and things. And
who was Curly? Who had to be Curly?
Yeah, that's the Three Stooges. But Harpo did have curly hair.
Harpo, yes. Sorry.
Yeah. No. So we would just have fun. Yeah, we'd walk up behind each other and put our leg over each other's arm like Harpo,
Oh, yeah.
would do. Yeah, so we had fun with that. And then we came to find out that his mom worked just blocks from my house, maybe a half mile from my house. So then after we came back from camp one year, his mom brought him to to work with her, and then I rode my bike up and got him, and he came and spent the afternoon at my house, and we had lunch and flirted with the girls in the neighborhood and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did
and
what kids do.
yeah, rode our bikes around, and then I kind of lost track of him, and then I always haunted Northern Lights music up on University. I would go up there and buy records, and those guys were super supportive of Impaler. They ended up helping us a lot in our forming, and that was another way we were very lucky. But I was going in the door, and Grant was coming out, and I was, Grant. And he goes, Bill, and so Husker Du was rehearsing down in the basement of Northern Lights at that time. So he said, come on down, I want to play you a tape. And he played me a tape of one of their practices. And
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we kind of reconnected in that way. And then I saw him at some different concerts and stuff after that, Yeah.
Did you have your love of the heavier side of music at that point in time as well? Or?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So did you come in as it came in, or were you kind of, because I was a late bloomer with the super heavy and the obscure. I mean, I was the punk stuff. I got into a lot of like Dead Kennedys and stuff like that, but
Sure.
I didn't really take off with the metal stuff. From Motorhead to Metallica till probably a little later in the game than other people would have. So
yeah, well, I was buying tons of music publications. This file cabinet, that file cabinet, this is all just full of old rock magazines, because I would be there at the newsstand every other week or every month when stuff would come out, and I'd buy it, and I'd buy English papers and stuff. And so I read about Motorhead and the new wave of British heavy metal early on, and Northern Lights. In the back of Northern Lights, they had Twin City Imports, and Richard, who ran Twin City Imports, brought all that stuff in from over in Europe, the punk, the goth, the metal.
Wow.
So I was buying Venom 45s, and I was already into Motorhead at that time. So I was constantly going up there and seeing what was new and talking to the guys and stuff. And that's how they came to help us out, because I was hanging around in there, and I said, I got this band Impaler, and one of them was friends with a lady that wrote for City Pages, and she was a big Alice Cooper, Bowie, especially Bowie fan, and he goes, she would love what you guys are doing. And so he had her come to see us, and she wrote the first article about us. And then Richard in Twin City Imports, he said, put together a little press package and your cassette for me. And he said, I'm going to send it out to my customers the distributors that I take records from. So he sent our stuff out, and they helped us just immensely, because they liked what we were doing, and they thought we were nice kids because we'd come in there and behave in the store.
You're the customers too, and their friends. So
yeah. So they were very helpful. Rob Norden was one of the guys behind the counter. Ryan, who ended up owning Let It Be Records.
Oh, okay.
He worked there at that time, and they were all super cool to us and helped us a lot. And I never forget that.
See, now when I hear Northern Lights, I think of the one next to First Avenue.
Sure.
That's the one that I remember. I didn't know the St. Paul one. Matt Valley, when I interviewed him, he was from State of Mind. He was talking about how they got their kind of start from going up to Northern Lights music. So it seems to be, with the river dividing it between Minneapolis and St. Paul, it seems to be that Northern Lights music really set off a lot of people. And it sounds like they had an enormous selection of music.
There was a third Northern Lights too over on White Bear Avenue. And so we actually played a show in there and did a signing when Rise of the Mutants came out. And that was that was probably the most metal of the three stores, although they all carried metal stuff. Yep. But that one really catered to the metal kids that were over on the east side.
Yeah.
And, so Metallica did an in-store there.
What?
Anthrax did an in-store there. Overkill did an in-store there. Yeah. So they were super supportive people, and it was really a tight community. It was like if they were there to help music and get music out there and promote it and not just sell records, So it was really cool. It was really a cool time.
Now, how did you meet up with, the Mike Torak, Mike Sen, your first group of people? Because to have that kind of an interesting like in music that is very different than the were you guys all from the same kind of area, or how did you kind of meet each other?
Yeah, Mike and Court is a year or two older, but we all went to Highland Park, and so
Okay.
I met Mike in junior high into high school, and we loved Kiss and the same. We connected with the music, and
Okay.
we became friends. And then Court and I were in a couple of mixed classes together where they'd put like health study hall where
Yeah.
they mix
Where
the grades together.
Yep.
And so I met Court, and yeah, we hit it off. And then Mike and Court worked together at Gannon's restaurant, and they became friends and started jamming together. And
Okay.
so Mike kind of hooked up with Court, and they started playing, and then I was putting bands together. I went to Texas a couple times and played in some bands down there and came back.
Oh, okay.
And so then we just kind of finally fell together, and Mike and I actually played in a high school band together called Blind Luck. And
Okay.
yeah. And then when that disbanded or split up, we kind of went our separate ways, and that's when he hooked up with Court, and they started playing together. They didn't have a drummer or anything, so we put an ad in City Pages in the back.
Oh yeah, there you go.
And that's how we met up with Bob Johnson. He came over, and he was into the same stuff as us, because usually, you laid it out in the...
Yep.
But we were like, theatrics, makeup, Kiss, Alice Cooper, Motorhead, we were very specific about what it was going to be, and tried to weed people out just by our ad, because you didn't want to deal with a bunch of people who'd come over and go, yeah, well, I jam down in my basement and like the Grateful Dead and stuff, and
Yeah.
I don't have a car though, and you guys would have to come over and pick me up, and it's like, so we just were real specific in our ad. And then we got Bob, and Mike Sen and I had been playing together in a band called Fear No Evil, so we just kind of took everybody and put a band together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. That's so it started really young.
Yeah.
For you, and then to find I guess one of my better friends from high school I met because he was wearing a Kiss belt buckle.
Uh-huh.
I was like, hey.
Yeah.
And I go, hey, you like Kiss? And he goes, shut up. And I was like, this is gonna be my friend.
Yeah. Did we just become best friends?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool, and it seems like St. Paul had a lot more access to the more underground style of music as far as pressings, and now I guess I understand why, if they were importing it over from England and
Straight
things like
from the source. Yeah.
that's a big difference. I mean, we had No Name Records, which was great. Go there, and we had Third Stone, but it was primarily. Outside of the Jumpin' Jim Brunzell picture disc that they had.
Yeah.
it was basically whatever anybody had in your neighborhood. I don't think there was a lot of import stuff. I remember seeing some things from like the Damned and things like that at Wax Museum, but I never saw a whole lot of any Stooges or you'd see a Misfits every now and then, but there really wasn't a whole lot of, that style of music. So I think that St. Paul had a large part in that. Northern Lights seems to have a large part in a lot of musicians taking off from there.
Yeah. Well, that was Richard's Twin City Imports. That was,
Oh, okay. All right.
He brought it and supplied the record stores with it. He was like
he was a distributor?
Yeah.
Okay, so he didn't have a store himself.
No, he worked out of the back of the St. Paul Northern Lights.
Oh, okay. See,
Yeah.
that's why I made that. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but he was definitely a part of that crew over there,
Gotcha. And did he have his finger on the pulse as what was good or what wasn't good, or did he just
Well,
kind of give you whatever came through?
No, he had good taste. He kind of he liked a bit of everything, but I think he leaned kind of towards the Indian goth kind of stuff,
Okay.
as far as what he listened to or what he liked. But he listened to the new Wasp when it came in, and
Oh,
said
I gotcha. Yep.
that "Fuck Like a Beast" is kind of a catchy song, and like, because that was only import at the time because the U.S. distributors wouldn't touch it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
As far as being a front man, lead singer, is that what you've always gravitated toward? Did you take lessons to sing, or did you just jump in and start doing it?
yeah, I just kind of jumped in and started doing it. I kind of played drums a little bit at first and thought, well, maybe I can kind of be like Peter Criss or something, and
Yep.
Neil Smith. I could play a simple beat, I can still play a simple 4/4 beat, but I guess I kind of wanted to be out in the front. I had the Alice Cooper kind of influence in me that I wanted to be the front man and do all these crazy things that I was thinking of, and so I gravitated more towards just being a front man. I could have learned how to play guitar at any time because my dad was excellent, bluegrass folk player.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I started a couple times, but then I got distracted and I'd go out and ride my bike instead, and
Yeah.
I guess I was always just meant to be a front man.
Yeah.
A
Well,
simple entertainer.
yeah. Well, you do it well.
Oh, thank you.
So you just started out that way, and then you found these gentlemen, and you guys are roughly all the same age. You said Court was a couple years older, and
Yeah.
and then was Mike Sen from St. Paul as well?
He grew up in Bloomington.
So he
Over
is
there.
from where I'm at. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So how did he end up with you guys then? How did
Ads.
Oh,
it was
okay.
when Fear No Evil. He was in a band called, what were they called? Sinner, I think. And we went to see them play one night and thought he was really great. And then lo and behold, he answered our ad for Fear No Evil.
Really?
Yeah. And so, and he had all the check marks, Motorhead, Venom,
Oh yeah.
Iron Maiden, Kiss. He loved everything that we loved, so it was just a great fit. And so we played some shows.
Yep.
And
Incredibly fast guitar player too.
man,
he
he
played
just
with
rips.
Pierce, and
yeah,
Destitute was his band, but
Sure.
Pierce was his singer for that.
Vile.
Vile. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What a Jimmy Odegaard's interview. I have a picture of Vile and they're standing there, and I just look on Mike's arm, and he's got conch.
yeah, yeah,
And I remember those guys because I was just starting out when Vile was playing.
Yeah.
And so we were going to parties, the same parties that they'd be, and I'd be like, these guys are really living up to their name.
yeah.
They really are. Just the way they're acting now in just a social situation, I can't imagine what these guys are going to do on stage. So
Oh yeah, they're nut jobs.
very fun.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was the original lineup, huh? And how long did that continue for? And what did you record at that time?
Well, when Mike Sen was in the band, when we were 5-piece, we did a couple of demo tapes.
Okay.
We did 2 demo tapes, I believe, with Mike, and then he left and he formed Vile, and then we just went on as a 4-piece
As a
at that
4-piece
point.
with Mike
Yeah,
Torok in
yeah.
there?
Mike just handled all the guitar,
Gotcha.
and then actually after Mike Sen left, we ended up getting the deal with Combat. So,
Okay.
Yeah, so we just went forward as we did another demo as a 4-piece, a couple of demo tapes, and then that's what Combat got a hold of and liked.
What did you guys do for distribution before you got the Combat deal? Did you just bring them to Northern Lights and put them in a little box?
We weren't even that advanced. We had a friend named John Strattinger who ended up being in the band later on, and he was a tape trader. So he took our demo and made copies of it, and he was trading with people all over the world.
Wow.
And so he would trade somebody down in Florida an Impaler demo for Nasty Savage.
Oh, I gotcha.
Or he'd trade somebody from New York with Overkill.
Yeah.
And get the Impaler. So we were being spread around that way.
Wow.
It was all grassroots,
That's very organic.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
very organic.
And then we'd send copies of the demos to fanzines because they were huge back then too. Mm-hmm. Every kid that loved metal, or a lot of them, the ones that were industrious, they started a fanzine, and they were all like Xerox copied, stapled together, and they did them in their bedroom, and they'd mail them out all over too. People would write to them and say, can I get your fanzine? Maybe it'd cost $1 or a couple stamps or something.
Yeah.
And they'd have a review of your demo in there, and then somebody else would hear about it. It was all very grassroots.
Oh yeah, when that Jake Wisely started here with his sheet metal magazine,
Mm-hmm.
he did that same thing as well. That's crazy. I remember because you had to pay per photocopy. It was
Yeah.
like a dime or something like that.
Something,
And
yeah,
so if
you had-
you're gonna make a magazine, it's gonna cost a lot of money for a kid.
They go to Kinko's or whatever. And,
Yeah. I think Jake said that he did use his mom's copy machine at work to make.
I'm
sheet
sure
metal.
people had connections.
Yeah.
Well, before sheet metal, he had a zine called Ferret.
Oh, did
And
he?
a little character ferret. You'd see different people wearing a ferret T-shirt. That was his first zine, I believe.
Really?
Before sheet metal. I think that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, and there was also Profane Existence was another one that was from around here.
Your Flesh. Your Flesh
Okay.
was a big one.
I remember that now.
Yeah, Peter Davis ran that. I think he's still. I think I talked to Peter recently. He lives out in Los Angeles now. I think he's trying to publish, volumes of it.
Oh,
where
okay.
they'll put like several issues in a volume and have it released as a book. So that'll be really cool. Because
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. So we had some great zines here. We had one called Creeping Death from some kids that maybe were out in Circle Pines, I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's where Coup de Grace is from. So
Yeah. Yeah. That was pre-Coup de Grace.
yeah.
Those kids out there, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's probably the same group of friends that all hung out and loved that metal music
Oh, I'm
out
sure.
there.
Yeah. I'm sure that they were aware of each other.
Sure.
Yeah. And Jimmy Odegaard did mention that you guys were kind of in the first wave of kind of breaking down those walls for playing in the heavier side of things. And who else were you playing with back in those days? Were there other local bands that were playing around? I mean, Kubla Khan was...
They came later.
They were later, and so was...
Well, first, when we first formed, there's Death Squad.
Death Squad, yes.
Yep. And they were East Side guys over, I think they were in Woodbury or Maplewood over there.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. We played with them. Well, we played with Husker Du, as I told
Yes,
you.
yes.
So we would play with different bands. There was a band called Two Fisted Zombie, and they were kind of goth punk. We played with them. And then when Mike Sen left and formed Vile, we did a lot of shows with those guys because we were all already friends, and so we put shows together. Power Mad came about, and we did shows with them.
Yeah.
Earl had a band called Deranged.
The precursor to Before Disturbed.
Yeah,
yes.
it was before Disturbed, and then one of the big ones too was Iron Fist. They were one of the first hardcore bands in the cities here, and we played a lot of shows with Iron Fist too. And then a couple of those guys ended up in Impaler years later.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, Nikki and Eric. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, Eric was guitar player?
Eric Mitchell, bass player.
Bass player. Which one? What was the guitar player?
Nikki was the guitar player.
Okay, all right, yeah, because we did when they were kind of in the later years of Iron Fist. We did a couple. I think we did a Varsity Theater under Decker with him or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah. So great bunch of guys. Great.
Oh,
bunch of
yeah.
guys, yeah.
Yeah.
So that
I
was
love that band too.
Yeah. So you guys all. I mean, was it a lot of work to get shows and get people to?
Yeah, you kind of had to. I mean, there were certain venues that were dying to kind of get people in. We did a couple of what we called metal fests at Walebski's Blues Bar over off of Rice Street and University,
Okay.
over in that area there. I forget the name of the street that it's on, but yeah, they had an upstairs. They had a lot of blues guys come in and play, but we did these metal fests. We did two of them, and we did a matinee show and then a night show. And so
Okay.
that was
really?
pretty cool.
A
Yeah,
matinee and a night show.
yeah. And then
That's cool.
and we did those shows at the upper deck, and then we got in the entry and started playing in the entry. Ryan's Corner was they only had the cover bands playing in there at the time. Well, there's a band called Counterattack, and they had the weekend booked, and they couldn't do it for some reasons. One of their guys had a family emergency or something, and so they said, can you guys cover these shows for us. You can use our PA and lights and everything. And we were like, well, yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll do that. So I think we played 2 or 3 nights in a row at Ryan's, and we pulled out every cover we knew and played our songs. Yeah. And so then Ryan saw that we were all right, and so they let us start booking shows at Ryan's at that point. Yeah, because at that point they didn't have original music playing down there unless it was Willie and the Bees or somebody like that,
or some concert that
the Barking Ducks, and they mostly played blues standards and covers, but other than that, it was Dare Force and Paradox played there a lot, and Obsession and the band, the cover bands
Jesse
of the
Brady,
day,
Flamin'
sure,
O's,
the Employers,
yes, that's right,
Brainiac. I used to see a lot of them at the Libation Station on 7th Street too. Was a place, because back then they were a little bit more lax, and I was a tall guy, and I never really got carded. But so I would go, and it was a bowling alley at one time, and they changed it over into a bar. And it was called Libation Station down on 7th Street. Okay. And so I would go down there with sometimes Mike Torak, sometimes Mark Lopez, who was a guitar player in Blind Luck with me. And we'd go in and we'd just sit down and we'd maybe get a Coke, because we didn't want to go up to the bar too many times and get carded, because we were there to watch the bands and listen to the music.
You were underage at this time?
Yeah, I was probably 16, 17.
Yeah, I was going to say, because drinking age was 18.
Yeah, I actually I got in on the 18-year-old drinking.
Okay, see,
and then I got grandfathered.
I made the 19, so I was the years.
I got grandfathered through, and then through 21. So, but I was pretty close, so they never carded me. And I never caught. I just wanted to listen to the music, so I would go and I'd see Dare Force, the Employers, Brainiac, who are amazing. They were like a 3-piece band that played ELP and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah, and it was just there was some really cool bands, just so many cool bands, and I would just go and drink a Coke and just sit there and watch the bands.
Oh, that's awesome! Yeah, there was quite a scene for a while there that. I think right around the Stereo 101 time, where WDGY was kind of pushing more of the rock stuff, and they were playing local bands, so you could hear Dare Force on the radio, you could hear Jesse Brady Stranded in the Night, or you could hear, the Flaming O's or something to that effect.
And we don't want to forget Kane. Kane was huge. Kane was really inspiring to me because Jigs Lee was the singer.
Okay.
Yeah. He went on to Fragile after Kane.
Oh, Fragile,
yeah. Now he's got Jigs Lee Invasion, where he does British invasion music, and
oh, really?
Yeah, he's playing at the casinos and places like that. But Kane, CAIN, and they put out 2 albums. They put out an album called Pound of Flesh, and they put out an album called Stinger, and that was really inspiring to me because this was even pre-Impaler that. A local band could do this, could put out a record full of their own music. And that was just so cool to me. And so, they played Libation Station. Fragile played Libation Station after they broke up. I saw Kane warm up Kansas at the State Fair.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And they were in full show effect. They had their spandex cat suits on, and Jigs had a flaming book, and a certain saw this Prophet song. And they were really cool, and they were really a big influence on a lot of bands that came later. They were stuck in that cover band mentality, though. They were booked by, I think, Marsh Productions, and they did a lot of covers, and then they squeak their song, they play their songs, but then they'd go someplace like Chicago or certain events, like if they were warming up Kansas, and they'd just do their own music, and they had great songs. Very cool.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't have a whole lot of knowledge about that time frame of band. I'm very aware of who they are and what they did, but I didn't have enough knowledge at that time to know why they were playing the kind of song. Because Chameleon played my high school, and they ended with "Don't Get Fooled Again" by The Who. So they're still playing covers, and this is when Yanni was in the band and Charlie Adams and everything. And but they were still playing covers as well. And so I mean, I don't know if that 80s resurgence like after Employer when, Bruce was in Hurricane Alice
Sure.
and that type, the hair metal style stuff kind of seemed to be majority covers, and then they'd squeak in their
own songs. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and now you guys did that as well, huh? You did a little bit of covers as well as
just for that Ryan's show.
Just for that show.
Because we had to play 3 sets or whatever it was. Yeah. Three 45-minute sets.
Can you tune for like 15 minutes?
Yeah. So typically when we did our own Impaler show, it was, 99% Impaler.
Yep.
We'd throw So What or Ace of Spades or something in.
Yes.
But the majority of it was our own material. But for that particular show, we had to play a lot longer and know more songs. So we just grabbed a bunch of cover tunes that we knew and filled out the set that way. Yeah, but that wasn't a typical.
That was just to get in the door.
Yeah, but we did our full show and everything, and we played all our own songs too. And Ryan's was open to it, and they continued to book us after that, and then they continued to book a lot of original metal bands after that.
Yes, on Tuesdays and Wednesday nights.
Yeah,
we played a lot of Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Warming up that place.
Oh,
yeah, that's crazy because Ryan's has started so many different bands as well. I mean, it sounds like you guys broke the mold on that one, though. Was there any other bands that were like you guys that played there before you did, or were you kind of the first to walk out on that stage?
No, Obsession and Paradox were playing there, and they were pushing more of their own music and trying to be more showy, to be a show band. Like they were cool, they dress up and they had lighting and
I gotcha.
And but they were still playing. It was kind of the opposite. We were playing like 95% of our own songs and 5% covers, and they were doing probably 95% covers and 5% of their own. But as they got more popular, they'd squeak in more of their own songs.
Yeah, they even got to do the Met Center one time too.
Sure, yeah. Dare Force played at the Met too. I think they warmed up Molly Hatchet or somebody like that, and just all great musicians. I mean, they were just so. It was a pleasure to go and watch them play. And hear them play covers that I liked, because they were playing music that I liked, as opposed to going to, see something that was more hippie-ish or
variety band type stuff. There was a lot of variety band stuff back then.
And that's great too. Yep. That has its place too. But yeah.
Ryan's grew out. I mean, Regime came out of Ryan's, Porcelain God, Bent Vengeance. There's a lot of bands that just came up. I mean, Decker did.
Yeah, he got in there and started booking later on.
Yeah, that was that place had a lot of history. It's a bummer that it's gone, but we still got First Ave.
Yeah, so. Yeah, and the entry and the
that's
turf.
Made of concrete.
The turf has been really metal friendly too.
Yeah, Turf
They've
Club.
really had a lot of metal shows there. So yeah, St. Paul is kind of the metal capital of Minnesota, if you ask me. Minneapolis is kind of more of the there's metal there too, of course, to be had, but it's more the punk alternative kind of music is
because you were so at that time is like you said, Husker Du, Replacements,
and the funk and the the Prince element and the
Prince in
sound.
the time,
Sure. So I would say St. Paul is definitely the metal capital of Minnesota. Without any hesitation.
Me being a Minneapolis guy, I have to defer to you because you definitely are more of an authority on it than I am. However,
but Minneapolis gave us big breaks. I mean, Goofy's and First Ave are in Minneapolis, and they gave us big breaks too. Yeah. So I love it all. I love the Twin Towns.
Yes.
Yeah, it's stuff I'll never forget. All those bands and the music and stuff and. I mean, truthfully, like I love movies and different things. I don't really watch a lot of TV. I just as soon listen to music, at night. I put on music. Sometimes I'll watch a movie, but I would think I'd rather listen to music. So I do that, or I watch a concert video or something.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
And what kind of stuff would you listen to then? Does it just
at
all
night?
Over the place? Yeah.
Well, Lulu, you met Lulu, our dog. She's
Yes.
an easy listening girl. So we put on like Windham Hill and stuff for her
Okay.
when we're at work. And I listen to Windham Hill. But at night, I go to sleep to the Stooges, the New York Dolls,
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. New York
Aerosmith,
Dolls. Yeah.
Kiss, anything, whatever, Sabbath,
Yeah.
whatever. That's kind of fun. It's like maybe somebody who loves movies picking out a film to watch for the evening. I kind of get excited about what am I going to listen to tonight,
Gotcha.
Because there's so much to
Yeah.
choose from, right? I'll listen to UFO tonight,
Okay. Are you are you a full album guy then? I gather.
I love full albums, but on the TV, Amazon, they kind of like pulled a quick one on us where they want you to pay more to listen to the album in its full
Oh yeah. Yeah.
form. So now they do mixes, which ends up being okay because like I'll start listening to the Dolls and hear like 3 songs, and then they'll throw in a Sex Pistols song,
Yeah.
and then the Ramones, or
Yeah.
So I kind of just go with it, and if something starts coming on that I don't like, I switch it to something else. But yeah, I like to listen to full albums. Like I still listen. I had Rocks in the car, Aerosmith Rocks,
Okay.
just the other day, and I let that play through like 6 times over the week just because it's so great, And it's just it was so influential to me, and I just still love those songs. And that's the thing, I have never gotten tired of the music that I grew up with. I don't get tired of listening to it.
Your library just builds and builds.
Yeah,
It
and
just
it's
builds and
still
builds. That's amazing.
It still turns me on to hear it today. So
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Do you still seek out like obscure music as well?
yeah, I do. I find myself going back and listening to my stuff, but I like Midnight, the new Midnight. I listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
Newer bands like local bands like the Hardcore Corpse or
Yeah.
Dumpster Juice
Oh, yeah,
and
love
stuff like
Dumpster
that. I
Juice.
like to listen to those guys. But yeah, I seek things out, and I seek things out if I hear that they're have maybe an old school edge to them or something.
Gotcha.
Then I'll check them out and see.
Gotcha.
See
Yeah,
if
because
it-
you've done some shows with the Fret Rattles, and they definitely got some old school.
Oh yeah, I
to
love
it.
the Fret Rattles. They're
Yeah.
one of my favorite local bands. Those guys love a wide variety of stuff too. It's really cool, and it's awesome that Chad and Tracy are DJs because they have a
Yes.
vast library of stuff, and they can fit any occasion with the music that they own. So
They got more wax than the Crayola company.
yeah,
does.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
and so a scene is building at this
Mm-hmm.
point in time, and this has to be what, 86, 85, 86, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
Okay, and when were you, so you were also a DJ as well?
that's a funny story because I kind of fell into that. One of my neighbors when I lived in West St. Paul was J.J. Jeffries, who was one of the DJs on Hot Rockin' 104.
Yes, with Mindy Collins and Scott Clone. at that
Yes,
time?
the
Yes.
clone. Yeah, Michael Cross.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So actually, I came to find out he was my neighbor because he had Court and I on Hot Rockin' 104 and interviewed us.
Okay, gotcha.
And so then, like, you just lived down the street from me, and we lived in different apartments, but very close. And so we got together, and he saw my record collection, and he was going through my record collection, and I was like, Judas Priest and UFO and
Yeah.
and even the Gods and Stars and all these bands that they didn't have in their catalog. And he goes, Scott Clone is our station manager, and we're talking about starting a heavy metal specialty show. And he goes, would we be able to borrow some of your record collection? I said, sure, yeah, I'll borrow it to you.
Oh, yeah.
And so he went and told Scott Clone about all these records I had, and Scott Clone said, well, why don't just have him come on with you, and he can talk about the records with you and stuff. And so I was more like a color commentator.
Okay, yeah.
Than an actual turn the buttons. I could queue up records and stuff. I'd queue up records while JJ would talk or whatever, and then we had little funny skits that we did and stuff like that, and we had a lot of fun. And yeah, they played a lot of my records from my personal collection on the show. And then once it took off, we actually became the biggest specialty show in the region at one point. all these radio radio statistics or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
I had no idea that we had become that popular, but then all of the big record labels started throwing records at them saying, we play this. And so we had I had the Guns N' Roses Live Like a Suicide. And so
Really?
so I turned them on to Guns N' Roses, and when Appetite came out, they ended up getting one of the gold records from Geffen for Guns N' Roses, because they jumped on that like right away. And I guess I had a little something to do with that because I had Guns N' Roses, and we played it on the Metal Shop. It was called the Metal Shop.
What a series of events.
Yeah.
to get you where you needed to be when you needed to be there.
It was very, like I said earlier, I've been very lucky all my life, just kind of in the right place at the right time, or had the right goods for the right moment. I don't know. But so then we just got inundated with records from major labels and the indies, and I really expanded my record collection a lot because I got to keep some of them too.
Oh yeah.
And I got a paycheck every 2 weeks. I think I got a paycheck for doing the show, so it was cool and it was fun.
And that was on Hot Rockin' 104?
Hot Rockin' 104, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's Scott Cologne. Was that when Mindy Collins was working there as well?
Or was she? Yeah, I think Mindy. I think Mindy might have been there. I know Scott was the
main guy. Yeah,
he was the program manager.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was JJ, Michael Cross. I can't.
There was.
I'm drawing a blank on who else was there. Mindy Collins was probably there, but of course her name is just so inundated with radio, Twin Cities radio.
Scott Cologne as well. Very, very nice guy.
Nice man. He went out to St. Cloud and started being the program director at. They had a version of Hot Rockin' 103 or something. I think it was very close to the same call. As the Twin Cities one. And I think they're still going. It's still a hard rock.
There's people that have told me about to just, get on the internet and tune in to over there. You're going to hear stuff that you're not going to hear around here.
Yeah.
So
now, I don't know if Scott's retired now or if he's still over there. I'm not sure.
He was a big addition to everything music in this town.
Clone. That was a great name, too, for a radio personality. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, and you did that for, how long did you do that for?
Maybe 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
a couple
cool.
years. And then, as is common in the radio business, somebody else bought out the station and changed the format. And so all those guys went their separate ways.
Right,
but then the root of all evil stayed strong, though. They weren't sold off. Yeah.
He started in 87. So you guys... crossed a little bit.
Yeah. He was going on when we were on Friday night, and then Earl was Saturday. So we never really crossed up as far as taken away from anybody's audience. We had a great friendship with Earl. He was at some of our earliest shows.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, pre-deranged. He would send me. He made little demos. He wrote a song that he wanted to send to Bloom County for Billy and the Boingers. I don't know. There was a cartoon character. It was a strip that was in the paper that we both liked. It was called Bloom County. And, And they had this. These characters were in a heavy metal band called Death Tongue, and so he wrote some music that he wanted to send there and see if he could somehow get it, intertwined with Death Tongue, and so. I might even still have them somewhere. They were just these little cheap cassettes that had one song on them, And, and then when he had Deranged together, then he wanted to do shows. So then he started playing shows with us. Mm-hmm. And from there, then he had he was selling records out of the back of his trunk. And then he had some milk crates at one of the music stores on Snelling Avenue for a while. And then he got his own shop.
Yep.
Yeah, and then he got the radio show.
Yeah.
And then when he started his label, he said, we needed a label at the time, and he was like, I want to put you guys out, and put your stuff out. We were on a compilation at first. He did a compilation that he would give out at Milwaukee Metal Fest or different places.
I got you. Yeah.
Yeah. He had different volumes, Root of All Evil, volume 1, 2, 3. Anyway, he had one of our songs on there, and then we had put out Undead Things. This is after Mike and Court and Bob were gone. I reformed Impaler with a couple of the guys from Iron Fist with Nikki and Eric.
Okay.
And we put out a demo tape called Sonic Freak Show, and then we put out an independent release called Undead Things. And Earl was buying them up from me like every couple of weeks because he was distributing some stuff too. And he was selling a lot of them. And so then he does like, I'll put out your next one,
Oh, okay.
And so he put out It Won't Die, which was the second release on his label.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
The first one was some audiophile thing that he did. And that escapes me. But then It Won't Die was the first, hard punk metal record that he released.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so then he did about four of our releases and a DVD.
Yes.
So, yeah.
You have two, right? You have two?
Yeah, he did the first one.
Okay.
And then our distributor now, MVD, did the second one. But
Gotcha.
so we did a lot of things with Earl. And Earl would come with us too on the road when we do different shows and bring a few boxes of CDs and set up next to the merch.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. Drink beer and have a
Tell
good
his
time with
stories.
us.
And
Yeah, it was fun, and we went to places like Milwaukee Metal Fest and Jersey Metal Fest. He was set up there, and we ended up playing. We played those shows.
I didn't know there was a Jersey Metal Fest.
Yeah, it was called. Yeah, they did a few years in a row as a Koshik production.
Okay.
And Decker was involved in helping book it and stuff. And
Okay.
it was at Asbury Park Convention Center.
Really?
For a couple of years, and then one year it moved to a Polish VFW that was around the Asbury Park area. It was still in the general area. It was in New Jersey, and it was called New Jersey Metal Fest March Meltdown. It was always held in March.
Okay.
Yeah, so we did 3 or 4 of those.
Really?
Yeah. And Earl was there, of course, had his everything set up. Yeah, those were fun. Those were just so great because it's just like going to the first time that we went, when we got there, we went through these doors of the Asbury Park Convention Center, these big wooden doors, and opened it, and the people, we said we're with Impaler, we're playing tomorrow, and they said come on in, and there was a theater right there, and we opened the doors, and there was ECW wrestling going on the stage, and we were like, oh my God, we're in heaven. We're in heaven,
Oh, wow.
And then Iced Earth was playing, or Riot, and it was just like, oh my God. And there were all these vendors, this whole big metal section. Yeah, so it was really cool. It was just like people had all these obscure T-shirts and CDs that you couldn't find regularly, or different bands that you'd heard about that you wanted to check out. And so those were a lot of fun. And the Milwaukee version too was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, Milwaukee seems to be the one that have heard about the most.
Because it was so close to us. Yeah.
So Jersey, did you ever go across overseas at all to the like Swedish dark metal fests and stuff like that, where they have all the tents up and everything?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Have you been there?
Yeah, we played at Headbangers Open Air.
Okay.
Yeah, and we played what's it called? We played another one too. We played 2 festivals. The second one escapes me. It was more of a black metal festival, but we ended up playing it because we were staying with a band called Denial of God.
Okay.
They had a label and they put out some Impaler over there on Horror Records.
Okay.
The guitar player, Astor, had a label, and he released a couple of Impaler things over there. So they let us stay with them a couple of days in between, and we hooked up with Demonical, which was a Swedish death metal band, and we did some club shows with them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. God, I want to say it was called Satan's Favorite or something like that, the other fest that we did. But we ended up tripping onto that because Denial of God was playing it, and we were there, and their manager or Demonical's manager went to the organizers and said, Impaler, you know, from Combat Records, they're here. They're going to do club dates with Demonical. Why don't you just throw them on? So we ended up playing the second festival, which was really cool. Yeah.
Is it good reception from Europeans and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Cause
yeah.
I know that we really like it when people come over from, I crossed the pond, shall you say?
Yeah.
What is that?
It was really fun. Yeah, it was great. And I think it helped that a record label over there put us out. And
absolutely.
also Roadrunner Europe released the combat stuff over there.
Oh.
So there, there was an awareness of Impaler, you know.
Oh,
I can't say that we're number one on their playlists over there or anything, but they definitely, we had a presence there. We went to like their versions of Best Buy and they had an Impaler section with our latest CD was in there.
That's awesome.
And a lot of that has to do with your distributor. You know, we have a distributor now called MVD, and they distribute all over the world, in mom and pop stores and electronic stores. And Combat was kind of the same way. They had Important, and they serviced every mom and pop store, but every mall store too. So you'd go into the mall and you'd find Rise of the Mutants, or if you had Brains, right with, you know, whatever else was out at the time. Distribution is a big thing. Yeah. Especially if you're going to go away from home and go out into the wild blue yonder.
Yep. And you guys did run into a little deal with our former vice president's wife, Tipper Gore.
With the PMRC.
The PMRC.
Yeah.
What
that was
album
huge.
was that one?
Rise of the Mutants.
That was Rise of the Mutants.
Oh, yeah. That was another thing where we were in the right place at the right time, you know, and we're extremely lucky. Some people would think, oh, how terrible for you. But no, it was amazing because she would go on TV shows, all the big ones, Nightline, which was a big news show at the time, Phil Donahue, Sally Jesse Raphael, all these shows, they would go on there and talk about their cause, and then they'd show albums. And Rise of the Mutants was always one of the ones in their pile that they would show. Isn't this disgusting, you know?
Yes, it is. Can I buy a copy,
thank
please?
You. Thank you. And so, of course, you tell teenage kids that you shouldn't listen to this or this is bad, and they're going to go out and find it right away. So, yeah. So it was amazing. Extremely successful.
It's like
pairing for us to be
can you
hanging
ban
around
us
with
somewhere else too, please?
Yeah. And then, of course, once this political force showed adversity to hard rock and heavy metal, you got all the Christian zealots and evangelistic crusaders who jumped on the bandwagon, really just riding the coattails of the PMRC. And you had the Peters Brothers. They were burning our records, and they came and picketed one of our shows. And
really?
Yeah, so that was great. I think
that's awesome.
I thought it was amazing. Yeah, we debated with them on Twin Cities Live a couple times, and on U of M's radio station, we were on there and just debated, you know,
talking about
censorship of rock, you know, and rock being evil and all that.
With us now, and you're talking about religion and rock and roll, many people feel that that is probably one of the biggest threats to religion, and probably none feel that more honestly than Steve and Dan Peters from the organization Truth About Rock.
The show producer, he called me, got a hold of me, and said, we're going to have the Peters Brothers on, and we'd like to have you come and be actually up on the stage with the Peters Brothers. I said, sure. You got to stand up for rock and roll. You can't let those people push you around, walk all over you like that.
This gentleman in the leather jacket is Mr. Bill Lindsey, and he is in a hard rock group called Impaler. And Mr. Lindsey, I'm sure you have a few things to say about what the Peters Brothers feel about rock and roll.
Yeah, quite a few things actually. Yeah, you know, you go to those record burnings, and I've seen a lot of pictures of them, you know, the kids with the craze look in their eye, you know, throwing the records on,
Is that like that same
chanting
drug
and
craze
stuff,
look
you
they
know?
get at your concert?
Okay, now let's
kinda
let
like-
Mr. Lindsey have his say.
It's their own type of brainwashing, you know, and I want to point out to him that here's a guy, he lived back in the early 1900s, his name was Albert Fish, and he castrated young boys and mutilated young girls, and he said God told him to do it. So maybe we should put a rating on the Bible, don't you think?
I recall being in the trailer beforehand, and actually there was another fella on there too who was this evangelist. He was down on toys and cartoons.
What is wrong with this?
There are a number of occultic images portrayed in E.T., and probably the thing that I most hold against it I can't say on television, so I'm sorry.
Well, why can't you say it on television?
E.T. also included some inferences to homosexuality within the movie.
Homosexuality?
Yes.
So I was sitting there in the trailer as they were getting their makeup on, and they were all talking about points and publishing and business aspects of what they were doing. And I, you know, took mental note of that. It's like, yeah, you guys are just like scammers, you know, making a buck off trying to scare parents, you know, instill fear in the parents that the children are going to become monsters, Satanists, and you can sell books or pins or whatever the hell you want.
Our motivation for doing these things is not to keep your kids from having a good time. It's because we care about the children of America. We care about what's in their lives, what's in their hearts.
And you make a lot of money.
And we want, oh, baloney.
See, before we went on the air too, another thing was the Peters brothers had their whole little flock over under the shade of a tree, talking to them, like prepping them, and they spread them out into the audience. And of course, you know, they'd raise their hands over and over again, and they like to stack the deck in their favor.
I agree with you. A lot of these videos bring across the workings of Satan, and that are things that are against Christian thinking.
And there's nothing mellow on the t-shirts.
Nothing.
It's blood, skeletons, just terror type things.
You think that people like that shouldn't be able to do a video and have it on MTV and have the public see it?
No, I think it's not good.
You don't believe in free speech and everybody being able to say what they believe and do things in their own way in America?
Well, sometimes.
Sometimes?
It depends.
I don't think it's a sometimes proposition.
Bob Bruce, he was great. He was even telling me on the side, he goes, God, these guys are just full of crap. You know, he goes, we'll have fun with them, you know. Like,
when Elvis Presley appeared in Memphis, Tennessee, when I was a youngster, a real youngster, they said he was a disciple of the devil and he was going to ruin society.
Rock and roll is tired of being a scapegoat to you people, and I know you're making a living off it, you know.
And you're not making a living off of it?
You know, this is a
Hey,
gimmick. This
you're
is a
not making
gimmick. This is a gimmick, and I know you guys know what good gimmicks are because you're selling books and all kinds of paraphernalia.
We've made millions
just
of dollars.
like we
right?
are, so, you know.
well, horror movies are a huge influence on our stage show and our presentation, you know. Like Night of the Living Dead. That's where I got the idea to pull guts out of something. You know, was watching Night of the Living Dead when the zombies are disemboweling people. I was like, God, if I could do that on stage, how can I do that? Oh, that would be so cool. Yeah. So that's where I got the inspiration to do that. The only one that kind of bugged me a little bit was when Best Buy tried to censor us, because that became a whole thing too with Undead Things when that came out, because the cover, I'm laid out in a morgue and I got the incision in my chest and abdomen and with some scalpels hanging out and scissors attached to me and stuff, and my eyes are glossed over. And Best Buy went to the distributor at the time and said they need some kind of a sticker. This needs some kind of censorship. And I was like, did you idiots that run Best Buy, did you ever walk over to your DVD section, the horror section, and look at the covers? Did you ever take a peek? I mean, why are you picking on us, you know? And so actually that became a news item that they were trying to censor us. And it was in the newspaper, and a magazine called Minnesota Journal of Law had an article on it. And so we kind of went full circle from what happened with Rise of the Mutants to what was happening with Undead Things, as far as on a local level as opposed to a national level. But Yeah. And finally,
more publicity.
Yeah. I think we did, we made a little sticker that said, "Don't look at this," or something like that. Caution may warp your mind. I can't remember what this, we
Your
just
DNA
put it on
will
there
be
and said,
changed.
here you go. But, everybody in the press was like, "That's ridiculous," you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, and showed covers of horror movies that they had in their rack, you know, and they were comparable to what ours was, but ours was deemed too horrific to be in the rack like that, you know. So it was silly. I guess I laughed about that too, because we ended up smelling like a rose in the end, you know?
Yeah. More publicity too.
Yeah. Some people go, "Oh, you were banned by Best." Oh, that's terrible. No, it was great.
Thank you.
It worked out.
Thank you for not understanding us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we're like Frankenstein's monster. We're just misunderstood, you know.
Did it start off with the corpse paint and everything like that, or did it
Right
grow
from the
in-
get-go? Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
did.
it wasn't quite as elaborate. I mean, we did more around, you know, I worked with a friend named Mark Lopez he designed a haunted house out here, haunted hayride, and he asked me to work for him for a couple weeks. And so between him and this lady named Data Envoy, who helped me with the makeup on the If We Had Brains release, I learned more about how to do, you know, zombie makeup or ghoul makeup. And so that metamorphosized from just, you know, black around the eyes and blood dripping from the mouth, you know, to more of the
skin,
corpse paint looking,
the corpse
or,
paint,
you know, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we look more like, people call us zombies a lot. I think we look more like kind of like the Deadites from Evil Dead.
Oh,
I think that we look more like that than a zombie, but whatever people want to call us is fine.
Yeah.
Just don't call us late for supper. Right?
That's right. Yeah, I remember Tom Croxton, another guy that was in the band with you.
Mm-hmm.
He was in for what, like 14 years or something.
Long time, yeah, more like 18.
He would put on the makeup, and then he would take like a little utility knife and just kind of pick away at it so it would be all flaking off. He showed me that in Ryan's basement one time, and I'm like, that's a lot to go through, and you still got to play too, right?
Yeah, he really got into the makeup too. He liked he had really good makeup ideas, and he was really one of the first ones to put a bullet hole in the middle of his forehead, and then I think some new metal band kind of stole that. And so he went on to something different, you know. But he had some great looks, yeah. Great drummer, great look.
And you also did another band called Daddy Raw.
Yeah.
And so bring us up to speed a little bit on how that transition happened, because did you fold Impaler for a couple of years?
No, we never folded. When we took a little hiatus, and we even said in the press that, you know, City Pages said they were just putting it on ice for a little while, and that's what we did.
Okay.
I like to say we were involved in an accident in a mad scientist's laboratory, and we were frozen in a block of ice for a couple of years. But yeah, no, we had kids and, you know, life events, got married, and just sticking closer to home. But I always have to be involved with music. And one of the guys, Johnny Strattinger, who was the tape trader originally.
Oh, wow.
Got the Impaler thing going. He became our rhythm guitar towards the end of, he was on Wake Up Screaming on our third album.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So him and I and Court kind of splintered off, and we did Daddy Raw, which was a total Stooges, Ramones kind of worship kind of a thing, where we just explored that part of our influence and wrote songs that were more in that vein.
Oh, wow.
You know, which really wasn't a far cry from what Impaler did, but it was more so, you know, Stooges, MC5, old Detroit rock.
Gotcha.
You know? Yeah. And we did a demo tape and played some shows locally and had fun. Ended up on a compilation, Twin Cities Mosh Pit. Squiggy put that out.
One, yes.
Yeah, he put that out. So Daddy Raw was on that. We had a song called Mother of Mercy that was on there. And then the thing with Daddy Raw, we were doing shows and we were still being that Johnny and Court. We're Impaler too. We'd still do some Impaler songs.
Oh yeah.
And when we do shows, people would respond so much to those songs, you know, and it just became a natural progression to eventually want to come back to Impaler.
Yeah.
You know, because it was never intended to be disband.
Yeah.
And so when we came back and did our, if you call it a reunion show, we played.
When you were thawed from the giant block of ice.
Yeah. It was actually with the 4 original members, with Torok, Court, Meaty Bob, and myself. And we did a few shows. We did a Halloween show, and then we did a Valentine's Massacre show the following year.
Okay.
And then at that point, then you realize that people's maybe tastes have changed, or people just not as excited about it anymore. You want to go in a different direction.
Okay.
And so that's when I called up the guys from Iron Fist and I said, hey, do you want to join Impaler? And they said, wait, let me check my date book here. Yeah, yes. That's Eric liked to tell me that. Wait, let me look at my schedule here. Yes. Is what he told me. And and so then we were up and running with the new lineup.
Gotcha.
Went right away, wrote songs right away, and kind of did what we did in the beginning of Impaler, whereas we wrote songs right away and went and recorded a demo tape and had the Sonic Freak Show demo that we gave out for free at all the shows that we played. And then from there we recorded more songs and released Undead Things.
Oh, okay.
And then that ties in with Earl selling them and becoming involved and coming full circle with the outrage of Best Buy and their distributors.
So crazy.
Yeah.
That's
talk about coming full circle. I mean,
when did your son join into the show?
He got involved around the Undead Things time. He's even on background vocals on that album.
Really?
Yeah, and my daughter's on does a spoken bit on It Won't Die.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so Old School Ghouls. One of those, she's on that. She does a little poem about never smile when a hearse goes by.
Okay.
Yeah, her, she was just a little thing, and it's this perfect little girl voice, creepy.
Yeah.
But, Zach got involved around the time when Undead Things came out, and he was just a little guy, and he. So if it was a non-school night when we were playing, he would come along, and he just would help out. You know, he'd help me carry things, and then he'd sit on the side of the stage and watch and hand props out. You know, if I needed them, he would hand it to me. He knew at a certain time, after a while, he knew what was going on stage more than the actual musicians that were up there. Yeah, because he was just on top of it and very into it. And then Terry Ingram named him the pint-sized surprise the first couple of times that he came. So he had a Jason mask, and then he had like a full-on. So he had Jason mask, and then a full-on robe with a hood, and he carried like a plastic machete.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so he would come out in character, and give me the severed head and different things, and. Or help me stomp on somebody if we're doing he'd run out and help stomp on them. And so then just from there, as he grew older, he constantly just stayed involved, and he loved it, and we were able to do it together, And it was really nice going out on the road, because as he got older, he'd come with.
Oh, yeah.
After he graduated and stuff, and or if we were in the summertime, and it was like, because I don't really like to travel anymore. I get homesick. I miss my wife and I miss my dog, and I don't really like to be away from home for too long anymore.
Yeah,
we'll go out and do like be gone a couple days and come back.
Yeah, something special.
Yeah, but it was nice when we did do long tours that he was with. So it was
absolutely.
having a piece of home with me, a piece of the family with me, and that was always nice. That made it better. And probably made me do it a little longer than maybe I would have wanted to, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because if you have that person with you, that's amazing.
Yeah. So, yeah. And he has great ideas. And he's really become a creative force in it, too.
Yeah.
And he loves to, we work on the props together, and he gets ideas and makes things, and or he comes over here and we work in the garage and make stuff, and it's fun. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, he definitely brings a different element to the show. Like, because, I mean, he'll be singing backup sometimes, and then, you'll be pulling guts out of him or whatever it is,
Or he's beer bonging from the severed head beer bong.
Exactly.
Which he made. Yeah. Yeah.
And he kind of grown into the more doctor character now, I believe.
Dr. Corpse.
Dr. Corpse.
He's not the pint-sized surprise anymore.
Yeah. So,
that's what Terry called him. That's so funny.
Gilligan.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a pint-sized surprise. So, he does a great job, and he adds a lot to the show. And
absolutely.
And with the vocals and the background vocals. Because a lot of the guys that play, they don't really sing background. Court does a little bit here and there. Brad will share my mic once in a while, but as far as background vocals, no one ever really. When Eric Mitchell was in the band, he did background vocals, but so Zach really fills that out well.
Oh yeah, and you guys are so in tune with that too.
We've been doing it together for so many years.
Yes.
Yeah. He does a low thing and I do a high thing, and it meshes, and it's fun.
It doesn't, like when I've seen you guys play, it's not like it's like, you have the song and then the vocals, just the background vocals, they just slide together. It's like a puzzle piece to go in, and it's like,
thanks.
Whoa, and you look up and you see it's like, oh, the doctor's singing too now. So I suppose having that connection of having it be your son really helps
Yeah, it's been so fun, and great experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's like when I saw you at Alice Cooper. I couldn't have been more proud to just have my son with me.
I know that was fun to meet him.
Yeah, and enjoying that.
Nice young man.
Yeah. Just turned 21 right after that concert, so.
You were there with your son. I was there with my son.
Yeah, we got a picture of us all together. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was, and to enjoy seeing something that truly kind of made me who I ended up being was with Alice Cooper was such a great thing to share with my son. And then, Alice Cooper had his kid up on stage.
Yeah.
Too, So it was so much of a
family thing. And his wife.
Yes, his wife is the one that pulls the guillotine. Yeah. So.
Dresses in the French Madame outfit. Yeah, I saw her with Alice on my first show. So this was my very first concert that I ever saw, and probably explains a lot of why I am how I am today. But yeah, so his wife was a dancer in the Welcome to My Nightmare show.
And where was this? This was
Met Center.
This is at the and
so
it would have been
my 13-year-old self and my younger brother's 11-year-old self bought the tickets with our paper route money.
Nice.
We had paper routes, and you had to send in for these tickets, mail order. So my mom took our money.
They didn't have the Dayton's thing going for that?
Maybe they did too, in addition to it, but what the newspaper ad said was you had to mail in for the tickets. So we gave our mom our paper route money, and she wrote a check, and then they came in the mail, and we were so stoked.
Wow.
And so my mom and dad drove us over to Met Center, and there used to be a service road that ran around it, and they didn't want to have to pay to go in to the parking lot and drop us off, so they dropped us off on the service road, and we just climbed over this little fence.
Yep.
And we were in the parking lot, and we were in, like, we landed on another planet is the only way I can describe your first concert experience at the Met Center, because there's a huge outdoor parking lot, and it was filled to the brim with teenagers and older teenagers, way older than us, that had their cars, they had their speakers on top, they're jamming Deep Purple and Alice Cooper, Black Sabbath, they're drinking beer, smoking cigarettes and weed, and the girls have Daisy Dukes and tube tops on, and we were just like, oh my God. what is it? I mean, so you get these two little nerd paper boys walking through, the tailgating.
The California parking lot.
That's what it was like. Yeah. And so we went up, gave the guy our tickets, and then we saw our first merch booth.
Oh, my.
So we laid eyes on the freaking Alice Cooper merchandise booth. And it was just like, oh, my God. So I think we bought maybe a Coke and some popcorn. And then I got a tour book and a poster. And I think my brother got a T-shirt. And we went and sat down and had our minds blown,
Oh, yeah. Wow, Alice Cooper was your first concert.
Mm-hmm.
And the Met Center was such a wonderful place
to
go. As long as you weren't turning left to go into the parking lot.
Yeah.
Because you had to wait for all the cedar traffic.
You'd be sitting for a long time, yeah. But, I mean, it was great because it had the big parking lot. And you could tailgate.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's why it was such a mecca for hockey, too,
Mm-hmm.
And then the Met Stadium
was
years
right next
before
to
that it was still over there at that time. The Twins played and the Vikings played there, and it was like the sports complex, and then the Thunderbird Motel sat there, and that's where all the bands stayed.
Yes. You go stand around outside my later years. I did that around the time
fun.
I got to meet the keyboard player for Heart.
Nice.
That was my biggest one that I was not an attractive girl, so I only got to meet the keyboard player from Heart. Ian Ashbury. I got to chat with Ian Ashbury, but that was actually, I think it was Embassy Suites across the
way.
Yeah.
Other side of 494.
Didn't even know that it was Ian Ashbury until actually about 3 minutes into the conversation. I'm like, oh my God. But that was a great time.
Yeah.
That was a great time.
Oh, yeah. I saw a lot of great concerts and wrestling matches there, too. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to, were you an AWA fan?
Absolutely. You can't tell that from our promos and stuff that we do.
Yes.
Yeah. That's half of our shows wrestling inspired.
Mick Karsh and Joe Kupik. Joe Kupik was the engineer for AWA for the last few years, and a guy named Chris Tubbs that's on WCCO have a podcast called AWA Unleashed.
Oh,
it's the most beautiful thing
to
listen to, because they're talking, Tiny Mills and Yukon Eric, and then they're going to like a whole deal on Nick Bockwinkel, and
I started watching it with my grandpa in the 60s because my mom's parents lived maybe a mile from our house, so we spent a lot of weekends. We'd go down and see Grandma and Grandpa, and I'd always watch wrestling with my grandpa because he was an avid Twins fan and an avid AWA fan. And so, I mean, I saw Vern Gagne was the heavyweight champion between him and Nick Bockwinkel.
Yeah.
And like the Crusher and Mad Dog Vachon, Superstar Billy Graham.
Yeah.
Billy Robinson, the man of 1,000 holes.
Yeah.
Dr. X, who freaked me out when I was real young because the mask and stuff, it just kind of spooked me a little bit. Like, he's really creepy looking. Yeah. And so Pat Patterson.
Yeah, Ray Stevens.
They were tag team partners at that time.
Yeah. Larry the Axe Henning.
Yeah.
The Harley Race.
Yes. That was just great.
Yeah.
And so I grew up with that. And then there's elements of that in Impaler, getting hit with a folding chair and just some of the bravado is taken from those great interviews, that.
Oh, yeah.
The interviews were always my favorite thing. Oh,
You'd watch the match on TV Sunday morning, Saturday night, whichever they were doing. And usually it would be some guy that was getting beat up. And then another guy that was beating him up.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, then they walk over. That's when you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to pay attention now. He's talking to Marty O'Neill, or he's talking to Mean Gene.
Yeah. They'd wrestle a Ham and Eggers on TV.
Yeah.
Call them Ham and Eggers.
Yeah.
And but then the paid events, at the Minneapolis Auditorium,
oh my God.
Then they would pit the marquee bad guy.
That time it was Jerry Blackwell and Dino Bravo, and and Mad Dog.
The heel in the face.
Oh my God! My first match was Nick Bockwinkel versus the Crusher in the steel cage for the championship.
So awesome!
Oh my gosh! It was in our school paper. Somebody did an article about it, and that's how big it was at that point in time.
Oh, it got huge because they went before McMahon took over with the cable TV and stuff. AWA was exploding because we were going to the first matches at the Minneapolis Auditorium to watch them, and then all of a sudden they went to the Civic Center. They started doing their matches in the Civic Center when Hulk Hogan and the Road Warriors came and stuff. And they really exploded. And so then we were going to the matches at the Civic Center instead of the auditorium. Yeah, those were great times.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love those times.
Baron von Raschke.
Oh, yeah. The Clown Master. I think he's the only one that's still alive out of that whole group.
I think he is. Yeah. Well, Greg Gagne and Jim
Greg
Brunzell.
Gagne.
And
Jumpin'
of course,
Jim.
Jesse. East-West Connection was one of my favorites. Adrian Adonis and Jesse. Jesse is just so good on the mic, you know.
Oh, yeah.
He could do an interview.
Yeah.
I loved the guys that did great interviews. Bockwinkel was so smooth.
Yep.
Bobby Henning, the Brain.
Bobby the Brain Heenan. Oh,
Heenan.
my God.
Yeah, Henning, I said. Heenan was like, he just a master. You know, just hilarious. Yeah,
absolutely.
he just did great interviews. So that was fun. And that's definitely mixed into Impaler. I like to say, you know, horror movies and Halloween, pro wrestling and cartoons, and then, you know, hard rock metal music. And if you mix all that together, put it in a burrito. You got
in a burrito.
You got put it in a body bag. You got Impaler.
There you go.
So that's all fun stuff. That's all stuff that just has given me so much joy all through life, you know.
It's all showmanship. It's all
entertainment. Yeah, being an entertainer and keeping people interested and entertained.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And rocking. I mean, and the music itself. You know, there's that aspect. That's the thing about Impaler. There's the two aspects of it, because I love the music so much, and then I love the theatrical aspect so much. So having the two together is just really, it's like natural. It's
like two desserts for dinner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's natural as can be, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think, you know, starting to see Alice Cooper, and mine was Kiss, you know, and after seeing Alice just recently with my kid, and just, you know, just sitting there, just, you know, enjoying it, but just, you know, that smirk that was on my face the whole time was just, you know, it's like, this is the greatest moment. I'm just going to take this in right now as he's getting his head cut off. Yeah. You know, and my son's sitting there going, what's he doing?
Yeah. So, and it's so great to see Alice still doing so well. You know, he's just on top of his game.
Oh, absolutely. He was so great.
Yeah.
He was so, amazing. And so that would have been,
1975.
Wow, 75. So, wow, it's almost 50 years between the two concerts.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah. How was his first show? How was his show? How was that
amazing.
show?
It was amazing.
Did he do the same thing with the guillotine? And
no, it was a little different, because he, so his original band, who is probably my favorite band of all time, they disbanded. They broke up right before. This was his beginning of his solo career.
Oh, okay.
Welcome to My Nightmare. So I didn't get to see Michael Bruce and Glenn Buxton and Neil Smith and Dennis Dunaway. I love those guys. Those albums that he made with them are my favorites. But that being said, I got to see Steve Hunter and Dick Wagner play with him. And they, you know, and those guys are legendary guitar players. You know, their credentials are flawless, but they were amazing. And so he had a whole new stage show. You know, he came out on this big bed at the beginning singing "Welcome to My Nightmare," and it had severed heads on it and stuff. And it was this big stage with these two big lighthouses on either side and a gigantic spider web behind it.
Oh, okay.
And he had a big toy box, and he kept pulling things out of it, like swords and balloons and different things like that. And he had a big giant Cyclops monster, which, you know, you see Rob Zombie and you're like, that's where that came from, you know, because he had the Cyclops monster that he came out and he fought it, and then he beheaded it. And, so it was really fun. Yeah, it was really cool. And then I saw him, you know, just about every cycle after that. I was at the Tear Gas show. I got to speak with him on the phone, which was amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I can send you
my.
the copy of it because I kept it, it's
Oh.
in my phone still. Yeah. I ended up being able to talk to him, which was amazing. I thought, well, I guess I can die now. But it was, it came about during COVID. I was working at Bethesda Hospital, and which is no longer there anymore, but we became only the second COVID specialty hospital in the whole United States at the time.
Oh my.
And
Yeah.
so we took all of the regular patients that were still there and we shipped them out to other hospitals, and we only brought in COVID patients and cared for them.
Wow.
And so Alice has a radio show, and it's called Nights with Alice Cooper. And either I was listening to it or I saw it on Facebook or something. He was saying, hey, frontline workers, we want to talk to you guys. We want to salute you. And so I thought, well, what the hell? I'll throw my hat in the ring.
Why not? Why not?
But I didn't say a word about anything about being in a band. I sent them a picture of me in my scrubs, and I said I work at the only the second COVID hospital in the Twin Cities. The other one was in Boston. The only COVID hospitals in the whole United States. And the producer, this lady, contacted me, and she said, "Yeah, well, tell me a little bit about your hospital." I said, "Yeah, we're only taking care of COVID patients right now, and I work there, and I'm helping out, and we're taking care of the patients." And she said, "Well," she said, "such and such a day, Alice might call you, and he might call you at 5:00 because his show goes on the air around 5:30 Phoenix time."
Oh.
And I was like, "Oh, okay. So he might call." Okay. So, I mean, I was excited about that, but I was thinking, well, maybe he won't. I'm not going to get my hopes up. And so that night, we had supper, and like 5:00 came and went, and we were eating, and it's like, oh, he's not going to call. So they must have decided to talk to somebody else. All of a sudden, 5:25, my phone rings, and he goes, "Is this Bill Lindsey?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "My name's, Joe Johnson, and the producer of the Nights with Alice, Hold for Alice." And all of a sudden,
I'm getting goosebumps just hearing the story.
Get this though, he jumps on the phone. He goes, "Hey, Bill, how's Impaler doing?"
Whoa!
And I said, "You can hear me?" I go, "What?" Because I never said a word about it to the producers. I only told them I worked in this hospital, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, "I don't suppose you're playing too much now with the COVID, and we talked. And he was the easiest person in the world to talk to. He was just so friendly and accommodating, and just like you felt like you already knew him, And I followed him for so many years. I guess I kind of did in a way, kind of know. I said, "I have been with you for years." I said I was at the tear gas show, and he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "We made up T-shirts after that show. I survived St. Paul. The whole crew, we all had them." And we talked about that, and then he talked about Bethesda and what I did there and stuff. And then we talked about being frontmen. And then at the very end, he goes, "Okay, well, I'll let you go. Thanks for all you do, Bill. Impaler." And it's just like, holy crap, what did I just experience?
Yeah, those are
goosebumps. Oh man,
that's
I was
crazy.
I
surreal,
was sitting on my
how
recliner
surreal
talking
is
to him. Kick back on my recliner.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be amazing to talk to him, but to have him know who you are right
I know
off the
that
get-go.
That was like they dug into my. I don't know. I don't. But other people have told me
it would not be very surprising to.
I bring them up in interviews and stuff, so as an influence and stuff. But people have told me that they went to the meet and greets and wore Impaler shirts, and he commented on it and said like shock rock and and
I'd be very surprised if Alice Cooper doesn't have at least one Impaler CD.
I don't know if he has an Impaler CD or not.
I'm sure he has heard your music.
I think he probably knows who was influenced by him and who, talks about the influence
If I'm Alice Cooper and I'm flipping through the records, yours is going to probably be one of the first ones that I go to grab out of there. So.
That's why, you know, like I said earlier, I always like to talk about who my influences are and how they influenced me.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was so ridiculous. Like Marilyn Manson would never say that Alice Cooper was his influence.
really?
For a long time. He never said it. Oh, Bowie, you know, and G.G. Allen, you know, and he would never say Alice. And it's just like, wait, you have a woman's name, you wear makeup, and you do theatrics. I mean, you even hold a light, you know, a trouble light under your face when you're singing a song. And some early footage I saw, which Alice used to do.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Love
right.
It to Death tour. He used to hold a light up under his face, and you don't give him props. I can't believe that. You know, it's just like, it was kind of a turnoff.
But do you really want Gigi giving you props? Do you really want to take responsibility for that?
Dude, you know, Gigi, I just felt sad and depressed to watch his videos and stuff, just because he was so mentally ill, and it made me sad that he was, you know, abusing himself like that, and people saw it as entertainment. I don't know.
Yeah. I just know the stories. So that's where my world comes from on G.G. Allen. I was never fortunate enough to go see a show. So
I never did. Some of the guys from Iron Fist who were an Impaler, Eric and Nikki, they saw him in the entry or someplace. But it was sad that he was so
so he was
messed up.
I gotcha. I thought it was drug induced, but maybe it wasn't.
Probably some of that too. But I mean, a lot of, you know,
the cutting and all that stuff. Yeah. It takes on a different role when you bring it up into that perspective, I'll tell you.
Yeah. I guess that's my take on Gigi.
Yeah. Yep. So, like, I see you got a Ramones poster over there. Did you ever by chance get to see the Ramones at like one of their Uncle Sam shows or anything?
I have the ticket stub still.
What?
Saw them twice at Sam's. It was still called Sam's. The second time they might have been First Avenue by the second time, but the first, I still have my ticket stub.
Really?
Yeah, at Sam's. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And how was that?
It was amazing.
Yeah. Who were they billed with when they came here?
You know, I don't remember. I know Mofos played with them one time.
Yeah.
But I honestly can't remember who warmed them up, and I remember we went in the entry too, and we played, and that was the first time I heard "God Save the Queen" because they had a little jukebox in there. The entry was set up completely different.
Oh,
the stage was where the bar is now, and and they had like church pews in there. It was completely different, and they had a little jukebox in there, and so during the warm-up band, we went over there and had a beer and played "God Save the Queen." And I was like, God, this is a great song. You know? Because people are so divided, or they could be, between punk and metal. And I never was. I always saw the connections between the two.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe
I think it's from the punk side, though. I think the punk side doesn't care for the metal people.
I think
as
the
much.
Twins, but I think the Twin Cities had a better perspective on it, more accepting of each other, because there were a lot less. There was a lot less friction between the factions because they both came to see Impaler, punks and metal people.
Great. Yeah.
And I have friends like from Milwaukee and stuff, and they said they used to fight and stuff all the time, and I never really witnessed that. I can't say that I ever saw any violence between the two factions. They just enjoyed the music together for the most part. Of course, you have knuckleheads in both camps that probably stirred up some shit, but for the most part, everybody in Minneapolis was cool with each other, and I love that.
Oh yeah, I think that the metal guys though would be more likely to acknowledge that they enjoyed punk rock than some of the punkers, especially the hardcore punkers, to say that they would like a Metallica.
Well, they were there at Metallica. I saw Metallica at First Avenue.
Did you really?
Yeah, there were punks there, and that
was 87, wasn't it?
That was about the time. So
85.
Metallica, that was 85.
85, yeah.
Yeah, that was at around that time when the thrash bands started to come out, they acknowledged the hardcore bands and had Dead Kennedys stickers on their guitars.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Fear and all of the bands that they really liked, and that really influenced their sound too, and gave them their speed and some of their edge. Comes from
absolutely
their hardcore.
Because I've always liked the punk stuff too. I mean,
yeah.
I've always been a really big fan of that. Any kind of like emotional expression in music, I really enjoy that.
Yeah,
so.
I think that I latched onto punk so quickly because of bands like the New York Dolls and bands that influenced the punks.
Mm-hmm.
I could see how that was when the
so
Ramones and the Damned and Sex Pistols. It was like, I can hear the New York Dolls and what they're doing, or I can hear the MC5 and what they're doing, and I like those bands already, and so, it just became a natural progression. It's just great music to me, like the riffs on Nevermind the Bullocks could be on a new wave of British heavy metal albums with different singers. They're great riffs.
I tend to forget that like the Dolls preceded the movement over in England there.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't a long time, but it did precede them.
It did,
because I suppose like 1973 or so, 74 there.
A lot of the English punks were really influenced by the glam, like T-Rex and Slade and Sweet, and then the Dolls came over to England and played on the Old Grade Whistle Test or something, and you hear people like interviews with like Mick Jones from the Clash or Joe Strummer or Johnny Rotten, and they say, we saw the Dolls on the Old Grade Whistle Test, and they blew our minds.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I kind of forget that part. That they actually, because Kiss was influenced so heavily from
the Dolls,
New York
too.
Dolls, and Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
So that's
and
crazy.
Slade.
Oh, and Slade.
Yeah, the anthematic aspects of their songs. Yeah,
that's the Run Away band, right? And Come On, Feel the Noise, and
Well, and Mama, We're All Crazy Now, and Goodbye to Jane. How Do You Ride?
Their covers. The people that have covered their music have
just
spread it everywhere.
They were one of the first bands that really turned me on to hard rock.
Slade was?
Mm-hmm.
For real? Okay.
Yeah.
I only know them from the MTV time frame.
Yeah. Well, you're a little younger than I am, but I think it's their second or third album, Slade, they all had their hands out like this with Slade written on their finger, on their knuckles. And that had Mama, We're All Crazy Now on it. But that came just a tad later because I bought my first album with my own money after Christmas one year. I got some money for Christmas, in a card. And my dad and my brother and I, we went to Target. My dad had to grab some things, and I went with my money in the record department. And K-Tel, I don't know if you remember K-Tel Records, they were stationed here in the Twin Cities. A lot of people don't know that.
I remember their compilation albums.
Yeah, so I bought one called Believe in Music, and it had Mama, We're All Crazy Now was one of the songs on it.
Oh, okay.
And I hadn't heard it up to that point, but I took that record home and I listened to it, and I liked, like the Rod Stewart song. Maggie May was on there, and Let It Rain, Eric Clapton, and Long Cool Woman by the Hollies. And I was like, yeah, these are cool songs. Then all of a sudden, Mama, We're All Crazy Now came on, and it was just, it just hit me like a tidal wave. It was just like, oh my God, I probably took a step back, knocked back on my feet, because it was just heavy and raw and raucous. And it was like, this is amazing. And I played it over and over and over again. I still have that compilation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so then I went to find out another kid in my class had I was the oldest sibling in my house. So I was the one who had to trailblaze and find these different things, because I didn't have an older sibling
I gotcha.
to turn me on to it. But I had a friend at school in the 5th or 6th grade, and he had an older sister who loved T-Rex and David Bowie, and she had
Oh,
the
yeah,
Slade
that's
album. So then I found out there was a whole record of this stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And that was the same time that I heard School's Out on the radio. And that blew my mind too. And I was like, this is my music, you know, this is what speaks to me and strikes a chord inside me. And so that's how I became, you know, a hard rock lover, lover of hard music.
It altered your DNA.
Yeah. And the Osmonds Crazy Horses, loved that.
Oh.
Loved it. I was like, these songs are
Crazy
amazing. I need to
Horses.
find more of these things.
Yeah.
And that set me on my quest.
Who did that song about the plane crash? Was it DOA?
Oh, DOA.
Yeah.
That scared me when I was like in grade school.
Oh, did it really?
Oh, yeah, because it was on the radio. They'd play it on the radio.
Oh,
and
wow.
you'd hear this, ooh, 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 and I was, oh, it's that song about the people dying.
Yeah.
About the bloody sheet and stuff. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, it was like a horror movie on the radio.
Yeah.
You know, because when I was in grade school too, when we got off school and got home and turned on TV, the soap opera called Dark Shadows was on.
Oh yes, with
Barnabas Collins,
yes.
the vampire, and it was
he
this
lived
eerie,
in the
dreary,
mortuary or something like that. Yeah.
It was dreary, black and white.
Yeah,
and I would watch it after school, like for a couple of years, and that would freak me out too because it was just so creepy and eerie, the atmosphere, and the storylines and stuff, and it was just like hearing DOA on the radio and seeing Dark Shadows was probably kind of like my introduction into horror, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that all, boy, you got hit by all these influences at a very young age.
This is a great cultural experience, you know, that was going on at that time.
It was so, I mean, I think it was great that you had the ability to, through that record distribution, what was his name? The one that was behind, that worked out of the back of Northern Lights.
Twin City Imports?
Twin City
Richard.
Imports. They had that because that's a huge gift
Yeah,
right there.
that's like New York or Los Angeles. You have somebody that's bringing those records in. And that's why, you know, the guys from Anthrax and, you know, probably Nikki Sixx are buying imported records from England because that's where you hear Chicago, big cities like that.
Yeah.
They have distributors that are bringing that stuff in, and that's why a lot of these bigger cities, they have that culture before we do. We're kind of stuck in the middle in a way, you know, like the Replacement song goes. But so for us, we were very fortunate in St. Paul to have this guy working at that record shop who was bringing that stuff in.
Oh, that's
we
amazing.
were very fortunate.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
In the movie Halloween, they hold up an Impaler album, but it's not one that I recognize. It was not your album, was it?
Trick or Treat?
Trick or Treat, yes.
Yeah, that's Rise of the Mutants.
That is Rise of the Mutants. Okay, because it looked...
And it gets the most... it gets the most screen time out of all the albums,
yes,
too,
because
she turns it over.
How did that get in there?
Well, so they were making the movie, and I was aware of the movie because I'd been reading about it and like Circus and Hit Parader that this movie was coming out that had a heavy metal theme, and Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons were going to be in it.
A part of it, yeah.
Yeah, and so I was aware that this movie was being made, but I had no idea behind the scenes. Our guy at Mike Schnapps is his name, and he worked at Combat, and he went on to Epic, and he went on to Roadrunner, I think he was working for too, or Nuclear Blast, one of the two. Century Media. Anyway, he was he was just like our angel at Combat because A, he loved us, and B, he'd make sure we got in on whatever was going on
in that vein. Yeah.
So he, I guess, he sent a package of albums over to the producer for props for the movie.
Wow.
And so they picked the ones out that they thought were the most, you know,
the appropriate,
scary to a mom looking at.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So she's looking at his records and she's all freaked out, and she double looks at ours and turns it over. And and then the stereo explodes or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So Mike Schnapp, he did a lot of things for us. You know, I think he even mailed a whole bunch of the combat records to the PMRC.
He was their supplier. It's like, do you
Yeah.
need 10,000 more of these?
Yeah, can you hold that up on the... Yeah, he was brilliant. And yeah, he hooked us up with all... We were like... so he was the PR guy.
Okay.
And so we had interviews in like most all of the big metal magazines at the time. And,
Yep.
And he just did everything he could to help us, you know.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
He ended up working at Epic with Alice Cooper.
Did he really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that's how he knew exactly who you were when he called you.
I don't know. I really don't know how he knew, but it's fun.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
definitely fun. Yeah.
So, so currently, now you got the big. I love the Kiss stays at No Name.
That's fun.
And so, how long have you done it? Was it last year, the first year,
no,
third year?
This is our third year doing it in a row.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
And who's going to be playing with you at that time? Is it the current lineup, or do you have any?
Yeah, the
subs
current lineup is
okay.
so. Well, we actually just recently added a third guitar player, so we have 3 guitar players.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but he's Nacho Lusco. He's our guy, our Lucha Libre guy with the mask. He's an excellent guitar player.
Oh,
and he's been
really?
our guitar tech in the past, and then part of the stage show. But he's such a great guitar player. This is how it kind of came about, was with the Kiss show, because last year, Andy Radio, who used to be in Rip Snorter, he joined Impaler before our last CD came out. So probably it was pre-COVID, 2018 maybe, or 2017 he joined. So he turned 50 last year, and his wife wanted to take him to Vegas for his 50th birthday, which fell on the weekend that we do the Kiss thing. So Tim is his name, Tim Lusk, Nacho Lusco. He's a huge Kiss fan, huge Ace Frehley fan. And so he said, Tim, why don't you could play instead of, since Andy can't be there. And so he did, and he just nailed it. You know, and just like, God, he's such a good guitar player, you know.
Yeah.
And then then Brad Johnson is the other guitar player, the lead guitar player, and he's been with us so many years now.
Yeah.
He had 2 concussive episodes this past spring summer where he had bad concussions, and so he couldn't perform with us. And so again, Timmy stepped up and played the Amsterdam show with us and killed it. He learned all the songs, you know, note for note. And you know, he's an old Impaler fan. He loved Impaler when he was a teenager and came to see us play and had Wake Up Screaming. And so we're just like, you know, and after seeing Alice Cooper with the 3 guitar players too,
yes,
I was like, I said to Brad, we should just have Tim join the band. He goes, I already talked about, we should.
he's already in. I'm sorry.
So now Tim is the 3rd guitar player.
Nice.
Brad, who I mentioned, Court, who is the original member.
Yeah.
And then Aaron Ryan's our drummer, and Aaron was in Impaler back when we did Wake Up Screaming, and we recorded that at Paisley Park. So he actually recorded that album on one of Sheila E.'s kits in the drum room, this imported Italian marble drum room. And he played Sheila E.'s kit, one of her kits. She has all kinds of percussive stuff there at the time. And so, so that's the Impaler right now.
That's great. That's that you can see you guys the weekend at the Kiss Days at No Name, which is one of my favorite events of the year.
It's always fun. Yeah.
My friend Gonzo just did the Gene Simmons.
Right. Yeah, he's there every year.
Yeah, he's in Kissin' Time. He's in that band Kissin' Time
with Rick from Mr. Zero.
Yes. And Kevin Franzen, who is just the interview that I just released. He's the Peter Criss.
Nice.
And then
Mixter is the ace now. I
Misker
think.
is now ace. Yep.
Yeah.
Jimmy was their guitar player. His daughter is actually Tiffany Stratton on WWE, the one that's got the Money in the Bank case right now.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
I didn't know that. He was a nice guy. The time that we played with them, for Eric, Mitchell, he passed away.
Yeah.
We did a tribute show for him, and Eric loved Kiss so much, it made total sense to have Kissing Time play.
Yes.
And he was the ace at that time.
Okay.
And real nice guy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, Gonzo was born. He came out and he had the Kiss makeup on.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a great Gene Simmons. Yeah, he does a great job.
You have had several members that have added to the Impaler legacy over the years.
We talked about talking about this, and I don't want to leave anybody out because I would feel bad, but I'm going to do my best shot.
Okay. All right.
So Aaron's our drummer now. I think I'll go maybe instrument by instrument. That would probably be the best way for me to remember. So prior to Aaron rejoining the band, Tom Croxton, great drummer, was our drummer for 18 years. Yeah. And prior to that, Ron Barna was the drummer, and he drummed on Sonic Freak Show demo, Undead Things, and It Won't Die.
Oh, okay.
He was the drummer for that period of time.
For a while as well.
And that was and that's when Eric was playing bass with us. Court's our current bass player, who's an original member, who formed Impaler with me. And for a while, when Court had some life changes, little kids and stuff, Eric came in and became our bass player. And Eric played on several albums, even beyond Ron. But I'll get back to bass players in a minute.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay concentrated on drummers.
Yeah.
We had a drummer named Ken Lemire who never was on any recordings, but he's on some demos. And actually, Rise of the Mutants was reissued through Rare Bird Records out in Los Angeles, and they put demos on the B-side. So Ken's drumming actually ended up on a record now after all these years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Because he just happened to he was in the band a couple different times, and he just happened to be in the band when we didn't record an album or something.
Yeah.
And so he was a drummer in the band, and then Meaty Bob, original member.
The original
yeah.
first drummer.
And that's when Ken would, Bob would leave. We'd have arguments or whatever, wouldn't get along. He'd leave. Ken would come in and drum. And then Ken would leave and Bob would come back. Just when you're young and you do those things. Kind of like having a girlfriend that you break up with, back together with, and
a band is a lot like a marriage.
Having a girlfriend,
yeah,
yeah, only not so cute. But so I believe that's all the drummers that we've had. And Mike Robertson from the Quincy Punks, he drummed with us for a short period of time too, and he drummed with us at a time when we didn't do any recording. He was just prior to Tom. He was playing with us, and then Tom came in at that point. So that's all the drummers. So it was Meaty Bob, Meaty Bob, and Ken Lemire, and then Ron Barna, and then Mike Robertson, Tom Croxton, and now Aaron. And Aaron is in the mix.
Multiple times.
Yes. So Aaron's back in the band and has been for several years now too. So it's so fun that when people come back to the band, because it's just, the people that remember, the fans from that era love it, and then they're part of the family in a way, so
absolutely.
Instead of trying to go out and break somebody else in. Hey, you know all the songs. You're a great guy.
You don't know that time where we do that little stop and look at each other?
Yeah. So that's all of the drummers. And then the bass players, Court was the original bass player. We only had two bass players. Court and Eric.
Yeah.
Yep. Eric Mitchell. Eric Allen Alan was his middle name, but he always wanted that for his stage name because he was afraid the IRS was going to come after him. So he never wanted Eric Mitchell on any of the records. What a great guy. Yeah, we miss him I think of him every day. He's such a good guy.
Yeah.
And you know that too. You've met him.
Yes, I met him. That's the first thing I think about was what a great guy that he was.
Yeah. And then Eric stepped back and Court came back into the band, and then Court's been in ever since.
Yeah.
And like I was telling you, Eric still continued to help us out and do things for us, help us with the stage show, build things for us. He was a great carpenter. He built lots of things for us.
Oh, okay.
And then there were times when Court couldn't make like a road trip tour, and then Eric joined us and helped us out because he knew the songs. So he came back and played with us. So it was really nice. Yeah. It's a great group of guys, you know, just so fortunate.
Absolutely.
So Andy Radio was with Rip Snorter, and he claims he loved Impaler before he was in Rip Snorter, and he wanted to join. And so I asked him, that was just yes. He was actually gonna. Sadly, he wasn't playing with Rip Snorter anymore, and he told me he was actually gonna get rid of his gear and stuff. And I said, well, why don't you come and join Impaler? And so he did. Yeah.
Like, let me check my calendar.
He's got all new gear now and everything, you know. Yeah. So we have Andy Radio, and then Tim Lusk is the newest addition for the 3-guitar army that we have now, and Brad Johnson.
And Tim has been a part of everything for quite some time.
He's been in the show for a long time. He's our Lucha Libre guy who helps Zach out with the mayhem, and we crack each other with chairs and whatnot. Yeah, and he does background vocals too. Okay. Yeah, just great guys. And then Zach, of course, Dr. Corpse.
Yes.
And we talked earlier, he's been involved with the band ever since Undead Things era, which came out in 1996. And then prior to that, I mean, Brad's been in the band for a long time. Brad left for a little while, and he played in the band called the Regenerators with some of the guys from Capital Guitar, because he works there every other weekend. And so he had a band together with them. And we had a fellow named Kyle Skogquist who was in the band for...
I remember Kyle.
Yeah, he played on Cryptozoology that we put out. And then we put out a Mutants Rise Again EP thing.
Okay.
That he was in the band, and Mike Torak came back during Kyle's tenure too. So we had Kyle by himself for a while, and Mike. When Kyle was in the band, we did a lot of our road trips. We did quite a few back when in the combat days, just trying to go out. We did a 2.5 month tour back then. But Kyle's a farm kid and had a van, and he had a snowmobile trailer.
Okay.
And so with my connections with booking in his vehicle, we were able to tour all over the country.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we went to Europe too with that lineup.
Really? And now he's was quite a bit younger, if I remember correctly. Yeah. He
got married. He lives in Detroit now. He's got a Motorhead tribute band, and he plays in Gravesig. He comes back to town once in a while, plays with those guys.
Oh, that's cool.
They're Misfits. They cover Danzig and Michael Graves' era. Gravesig. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I like
my
that.
good friend Jay Fornes from Rip Snorter, he plays in that band too. He's a great guy. Yeah. Mike Torak before that, in the Undead Things era, Nicky Nichols, who was the guitar player in Iron Fist.
Yep.
Him and Eric joined at the same time. They were a joint deal. They're a package deal. Yeah. And he was a great songwriter. He really, between him and Eric, we were really proficient in writing songs, and we wrote songs right away and got them recorded and got that Undead Things CD out pretty fast. And, and before that, it was Mike Torak and Mike Sen.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, with Mike Torak. Mike Torak was, original member.
Wow.
And so was Mike Sen. And Did I leave any instrument out? I think that's everybody.
Except for the flutist.
Yeah.
And the bagpiper.
The kazoo player, Brad does a little kazoo playing on the side.
He's got a little side project.
Well, he's playing guitar, but it sounds like the kazoo for some reason. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, that's a great...
Oh, I've met Johnny Strattinger, guitar
okay.
player. Johnny Strattinger, can't forget him. And he's the one who helped us out in the beginning by being tape trading with people all over the world.
Yes,
he took our demo. He loved our demo, and so he would copy it and trade it with other people. And then he was our guitar tech. And then it was another case of, well, he knows all the songs, and we want to add another guitar player. So he came in during the Wake Up Screaming era and played with Mike Torak and recorded that album with us.
Wow.
And then he and I did the Daddy Raw project together too. And we had some fun too. This last spring, we actually went over to the studio over in West St. Paul. You know Jamie Strobach?
The name sounds familiar.
And Jamie Strobach is a hero of mine too, because we had a tour. We had 2 different tours lined up back in our touring days where Tom was unable to make it.
Okay.
And Jamie stepped in and drummed with us. So he gets honorable mention in the drumming department too, because he helped us so much. We were able to do these tours that were already set up.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a champ. But he's got his own studio over at his garage is transformed into a recording studio. And so Johnny and our old friend Mark Lopez, who actually did a lot of the special effects makeup on some of our albums.
Okay.
Like Undead Things and It Won't Die, One Nation Underground. He did Habeas Corpus. He did the makeup, which is really like Hollywood style. Really good. Yeah.
Yes.
So he's a great bass player. Him and I played together in Blind Luck in high school. So anyway, we all got together and recorded a Iggy and a Motorhead song in Jamie's studio, and that was a lot of fun. Yeah.
What songs did you guys record?
We did New Values from Iggy, and then we did Iron Fist from Motorhead.
Okay. Awesome,
yeah.
Awesome.
And we might get to a few more in the future. We'll have to see what transpires, but we had a lot of fun doing that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All guys I'd played with at some point in my life, so all of us got together and played. And it was fun. That's what music should be for people,
Oh, absolutely. What a amazing group of people that
I've been so fortunate.
Yes. And you know what? I got to say congratulations on, over 4 decades now of being able to put out so much music that so many people enjoy.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I hope they enjoy it. I enjoy making it for them. And I think that it's just a part of who I am. It's part of my DNA. It's like I cannot be associated with it or can't be. Yeah.
Thanks to Alice Cooper at the Met Center. It started,
my boy Alice
opened up that door.
Yeah.
And
so many great influences and fun things in life that I've enjoyed that have all been part of the makeup of what Impaler is.
Yes. And so we got the Merry Krampus coming up on December 7th.
Yes. And that's a fun show. The Minnesota Krampus Society. They're people that actually they've gone over to Europe and partaken in the Krampus festivals that happen over there. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they're insane. Look them up on YouTube. Look up Krampusnacht, Austria, or whatever you can do. Anything that you can find on a Krampus festival in Europe on YouTube, watch it because it's insane.
Nice.
So they go over there and they found out how they traditionally do this Krampus. It's made with goat hair, these wooden masks that are carved out with the Krampus faces on them. They have the traditional gear, and they have a group here in Minnesota, and they do a lot of parades and Christmas festivals and different things. And so we hooked up with them, and they've done, I don't know how many, maybe the last 8 Merry Krampuses.
God.
6 at least, for sure.
Yeah.
6, 7 years. Yeah, we've been doing, they come and they take pictures with people. It's like a big celebration. Everybody has so much fun because they're there and they take pictures with people, and we play, and they come up on stage for a couple songs with us. And
oh, that's awesome.
yeah,
that's awesome.
So
And that's
it's a
December
fun.
7th, correct? And is that you said that was in conjunction with Capital Guitars as well?
Yeah, because their 20-year anniversary is happening around the same time. So we're doing it together as a joint show. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. 2 reasons to celebrate.
That's right. And the day before Halloween, you can check out some Stooges music.
Yeah, The World's Forgotten Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. It really
Yeah, that sounds
good. I mean, we're doing it. We're not dressing up like them or anything like that.
Yeah,
We're just blasting it out.
Yep.
In our jeans and t-shirts, and it's the way it's meant to be.
Absolutely.
Wild and free, Stooges.
Yes. Are you going to be able to contain yourself at least?
I don't know.
Bit?
Do some dancing.
You get those. You get that Iggy dance going.
Yeah. Yeah. I channel my inner Iggy for sure.
Channel my inner Iggy. There's been a couple of formidable quotes that have happened today.
Yeah, good.
So yeah. Well, I think that we're gonna have to continue to talk and. But I think this is a good point to wrap up. We got some things going on.
I enjoyed it. I mean, if you want to do a sequel sometime, we can definitely do that.
Absolutely. And I'm going to probably introduce a round table at some point in time about some
fun.
stuff. I'd love to do an Earl round table.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you wanted to be available with that too, that'd be so great.
You guys want to remember Earl.
Yeah. And there's a lot of stories.
Yeah. The damn root of all evil.
Darn it. Still going.
Yeah.
Still going.
Yes, it
Impaler and Impaler. And so thank you for so many years of so much entertainment.
Well, thank
Looking
you.
forward to another 40.
Thank you. Thanks for coming down and checking out the Monster Room.
Yes, definitely. We are going to have to part 2 because we're just out of time.
Yeah.
And so we'll just have to set up another one in the future and keep people hanging for a minute or two.
Be glad to.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You bet.
All right.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Bye.
This is Backstage Community Forum. Make sure that you like and subscribe and hit that bell icon so you can get notified when any new videos drop. Thank you.
Do it.